and I'm speaking to
Adam Laxalt. How are you?
Good to see you again, sir.
Good seeing you.
And we are here standing in the lobby of the Gaylord National Hotel in Maryland and outside Washington, D.C. At CPAC proper, where I think we're kind of following up from a conversation in September. And let's go ahead and start. How are you, sir?
Everything's great. Life is good. No complaints.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
As I always tell people about losing my race, I'm in great shape. I'm blessed. I've got 3 kids, and life is good. But I do feel bad for our state. I'm very concerned about the direction it's headed.
And hence why you ran. I mean, I imagine you wanted to correct that, or at least set it in a different course. And
yeah, no, I mean, 18 was a consequential year for the state, and Republicans got swept out of everything, and in particular the governor's office with the veto pen and being able to hold the line and keep us to the traditional values that Nevadans historically have held so sacred. But we've had a pretty big leftward lurch already, and if we don't have a turn quickly, then we could see our state looking like the politics of California pretty quickly.
And so here we stand at that, where that is the topic of the conversation this year. The theme is America versus socialism. And is there such a thing as a Nevada-type socialism, or creep word in that direction?
I would say there was almost no Democrats just 5 or 10 years ago that could ever be considered socialists, no viable ones, and there would ever have been a Bernie-type Democrat. But that's their party now. As we know, he just dominated the primary, and it's Bernie's party now. And I've been saying this for a few years, that the base of their party and a big percentage of their electeds now, just in the last few cycles, are very left-wing Democrats. And I don't think it's going to resonate. They, of course, are able to hide out, and they're able to hide their extreme views, and the media does not hold their feet to the fire. And actually, here we are, we're a week after the Sanders primary.
Yes.
How many sitting major Democrats in the state have been forced to say whether they'll support Bernie Sanders for president or not? And in 16, everyone was forced to say whether they'd support Trump or not. And so it's just one example of a bias that we face. But, in the end, he's going to win this nomination, and they're going to be with him, or they're not going to be with him. But he's going to be the head of their party, and he has already said that he wants to tear down the whole system. And I think that Nevadans don't want the system torn down. The system has been pretty good for Nevadans. We've been a state that has had great economic development, minus the Great Recession, of course, for many decades. And a lot of people have been able to find the American dream in our state. And, of course, there's always things to fix and things that need to be tweaked. But I don't think any average voter believes we need to tear down the whole system and move to some sort of socialist economy with Medicaid for all. But that's where they're headed. And I think it's going to provide a great contrast. And, I get it. A lot of people don't like the tweets, and people don't like certain pieces about, the president's style.
Messaging.
But now they're going to have 2 distinct policy sets, 2 distinct worldviews that couldn't be further apart. Mm-hmm. And I believe the president's got a great shot of winning the state in 2020.
I was advised and told by folks who've done some technical analysis on what cost Nevada in 2016. And I think the average was somewhere around 13 to 20 votes per precinct throughout the state, and you would have a Trump victory in 16. Do you see that similar likely? That's the margin we'll be facing in 2020?
Yeah, look, it's important for people to know he only lost by 2 percentage points. It was a very close race, and that was with no money, very little campaign. You had the sitting Republican governor that's not supporting him, and a lot of other Republican leaders. There's a lot of headwinds, and yet he still almost won. Now he has a record. We have record finances. We have a record campaign on the ground. And you got to assume he's going to start with the base that he had in 16. He's only gained more people and had more reasons for people to be excited to support the president. And so we feel very good that he's going to be able to get those extra few percentage points. And, Could it be still a really tight race? Absolutely. I mean, if it's Bernie Sanders, maybe he wins by 5. Who knows? But we're enthusiastic. The president loves the state. He's committed to the state. He wants to win it, as we saw last week with our rally and Don Jr. and Kimberly Guilfoyle visiting, and so they care about us. We're certainly going to be coming up north as well with the president, hopefully, and we're looking forward to a great general election.
So this is a fight. Nevada is not going to get neglected. We're in the fight.
We have more resources already committed to the state and more people on the ground than we've ever had this far out in the presidential. So, absolutely. The Trump campaign is committed to Nevada and wants to win Nevada, and it's an important battleground state.
What message, besides what you've already said in our conversation today, do you have for those out there in rural Nevada to urban Nevada about this coming election, and if they're feeling forlorn or feeling like why fight, why try? It seems like the Democrats are winning everywhere, they're in control of everything, and they're not listening.
Yeah, my message is that, after I lost my race, everywhere I went in the state, I ran into thousands of voters and said, we're so sorry you lost, and we thought you were going to win, and oh my gosh, we're in such terrible shape. And I told each voter to a person that it was very close. Everything was very close in this state, and that's with historic Democrat turnout. Historic Democrat turnout for a non-presidential. And so, and we had over 100,000 Trump voters who did not show up in 2018.
That's true.
Over 100,000 Trump voters. Republicans would have walked in races all over the state.
Yeah.
And some of that is because of the fracturization and because a lot of our Republican leaders weren't supporting the president and all these things. And we send a mixed message on raising taxes and giving driver's licenses to illegals and not passing voter ID. And what do we expect? We expect that our base is going to just show up every single cycle when they don't feel like the party's representing them. And so that's all fixed with president on top of the ticket. Everyone is going to show up on our side, and while we're going to have a battle for independence, again, socialism versus, the American dream, I like our chances.
It's good to hear, and I guess I'm going to close on this one here because I know you are like at the hub of everything right now, which thank you for that. It's good to hear a Nevadan in the hub of everything once in a while. It's kind of a good thing. Not kind of, it is a good thing. Is there anything else I didn't ask you today that you'd like Nevadans to know about the Trump campaign, your efforts, what we could come to expect in the coming election, why people should come to things like CPAC, why people should engage? You're the force.
Look, I think that people tend to believe that their voices don't matter, and people believe their votes don't matter. Certainly their votes matter. We've had some of the closest races in American history in Nevada. And so your votes do matter, and don't ever take for granted an election cycle because you never really know what's going to happen. But as far as voices, when you think that nobody's listening is when you'd be most surprised that some conversation you had with one person converted them on some important position. It may not even be politics, something you believe in life. And that person goes on and because they were such a serious convert, they go on and convince a bunch of other people that they've been hearing inaccurate information and they should be somewhere else on an important position. And so that's the biggest thing I encourage people is it all does matter. Something like CPAC was a very small thing a couple decades ago. And it's now one of the largest, the largest conservative grassroots event in the world. That started with a handful of people that had a small little vision and hoped people would pay attention. And so that's what I encourage people is that in your community and you think nothing's happening, start it. And invite people and add more people. And we have to do that, and it's the only way we're going to be able to save our state.
And you talked about small gatherings that started out, little events that started out to become big events. The Basket Fry, are we to expect another CPAC West?
We are locked in, and the date will be announced imminently. We were waiting till after this national CPAC till we announce the Western CPAC, but it'll be this summer. Right. And we're looking forward to a great slate of speakers, and we think this will be the biggest one yet.
I'm looking forward to it, as I have every time. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Likewise. And thus concludes my interview with Adam Laxalt, the former Nevada Attorney General and candidate for governor at CPAC in Maryland.